to many places around the United States, where we are spread in many places around the country. And we are also working in Dubai with Sanjeevji's team over there. We also have a doctor who is working in Mauritius, and we have one in Canada also. So we are kind of in many places where we are working. So what is it that stimulated that? There was one philanthropist and industrialist based out of Houston in Texas. And this man had been suffering from something called chronic fatigue syndrome for 35 years. It started in a small way. How many of you know chronic fatigue syndrome? Some of you know. Okay. So this is a state. What happens is, suddenly the person finds, the person cannot think, the person stiffens, nothing is working, the person feels like a vegetable, and the person stays like that. It can be for a few hours, it can be for a few days, and the person can come out of that. But when the person goes in and when the person comes out, they will not know. It can happen irregularly. And so it started with a few hours, like in a month kind of thing, when he was 35 years old. And when I met him, he was 70 years old. And at that time, it was happening like 20 days in a month. He was like a vegetable. He could do nothing. So he had gone, he's a very wealthy man. So he had gone to all over the world to look for different resources. And his allopathic doctors told him after 5 years of working, we don't have any solutions, look elsewhere. So he went to Chinese medicines, Ayurvedam, he went to yoga, he went and spent 6 weeks in SVSI University in Bangalore. And they looked at him, nothing happened. So I took out measurement machine, this box over there, and I read it. And what did I see? What I saw was, those of you who have a little bit of medical background, you know what I'm talking about, is peripheral nervous system was weak. So you know what the peripheral nervous system is, right? So the moment I noticed that, I asked him to do Ujjayi Pranayama. How many of you know Ujjayi Pranayama? Okay? But let's hope you do it correctly. In yoga, no exercise can be done with strain. Many people do Ujjayi Pranayama making a lot of noises. They strain a lot. That is not good at Ujjayi Pranayama. Okay? It has to be done without strain. So the thing is, he did the Ujjayi Pranayama for 15 minutes. When he came to see me, he came 1 hour late. And he apologized to me, and this was like 4 o'clock in the evening. He apologized to me. He said his day had been, right from the beginning of the day, his chronic fatigue was very bad. And we generally ask people, how do you grade it out of 0 to 10? 0 means no chronic fatigue, 10. He said in the morning it was completely like 10. And sometime in the afternoon around 2 o'clock, his wife forced him, and he had a little bit of a bath and he got dressed even while he was having the chronic fatigue. And so when he came to me, he was like about 7 or 8 out of the 10. After doing 15 minutes of Ujjayi Pranayama, he said, I don't have chronic fatigue anymore. Now it is 0. But then that is only a temporary relief. So the thing is, we discovered about what we needed was, we did something called chakra vibration. When we do chakra vibration is done along the Sushumna Nadi. And along the Sushumna Nadi, Samana Vayu flows. So what happens is, when the Samana Vayu is the connector between the physical body, the subtle body, and the causal body. Actually, that's not completely correct. Samana Vayu is going up to the subtle body, but the transporter after that connects is the Udana Vayu. Okay? So what happened is, we found that he needed chakra vibration. We did that. For a person who was like this for 35 years, he practiced it daily for 5 months, and forever his chronic fatigue was completely gone. And that's what actually brought up the work which we are doing into a limelight, and because he was a wealthy philanthropist, he wanted to share it with different people, so he made a big presentation in many places and things like that, and so that's how it spread around the United States. But then that is only one case. We have done so many cases, like people who have come with chronic, heart failure kind of condition, where we had an 81-year-old man who, 83-year-old man, who at the age of 51 had had a quadruple bypass. And over the years they had put more stents and things like that, and he had come to the point where the doctor said, there is no more we can do for you. And he came and we asked him to do just 2 practices, and in about, he used to get angina pain over there every time he walked for 4 minutes. After he did it for 7 weeks, he found it's only coming every 8 minutes. He was an engineer, so he likes to clock how frequently it comes. So it was only coming 8 minutes. After 4 months, the angina was gone permanently. And 1 year later, he went to check up with his doctor, and his doctor tells him, your ejection fraction is looking so good. It looks like your heart has become 10 years younger. What are you doing? Right? So somebody who had been told there is no more hope, the kind of things that we can work with, how we measure. This is the kind of thing that we do. So in all of these, what we are doing is we are aligning the physical body with the subtle or vibrational body with the cosmic plan. And many of you here are from Kerala, right? And Guruvayur is not too far off. And many of you know the story of Narayana Bhattadiri, right? How many of you know the story of Narayana Bhattadiri? Only some of you over here know this? Okay. You see, I'm going to tell you the story because this is a case of how you connect with the causal body and how disease dissipates from your body. So, Narayana Bhattadiri, he learned as a Vedic scholar, he was learning all of this from his teacher who was called Achyuta Pisharadi, right? And so, what had happened was, Achyuta Pisharadi developed rheumatism. And he was an elderly person too. But the pain of rheumatism was so high that what he did was, he said, there is a concept called karmadana that people will probably, you have not heard of it, but the thing is, you see, it is there in many traditions. Actually, if I am not mistaken, when the Mughal Emperor Humayun, his son Akbar was very ill, and at that time they had said, the Hakim had said that there is no chance of survival. Then Humayun said he will take on the karma, and that karmadana, Akbar came out of it, and Humayun fell ill and died. So you know the story about that? Some of you know that. It is the same concept of karmadana. So this man, Narayana Bhattadiri, took the karma. Actually, this man, Achyuta Pisharadi, had kept a lot of gold and silver to give away. Anybody who takes my karma, I am giving you gold and silver. Nobody came. Who wants this, rheumatoid arthritis, right? So, but then, Narayana Bhattadiri felt, this is the Guru Dakshina I would like to give to my teacher. So he said, I will take yours. But he didn't take any of the gold and silver, which is of no value to him, but he took it on. And then, within 10 days, he developed rheumatic arthritis, and he was a young man, and relatively young, and Achyuta Pisharadi became completely all right. So, by the way, this is the concept of karmadhanam, and this is why, when you do death rituals and things like that, and you give danas and all of those are all karmadhana processes. So, this man, then after getting this, Narayana Bhattadiri went to Guruvayur. He stayed there for 100 days. And each day he will pray to Guruvayurappa, you who have done this, that and all of that, why can't you heal me? And that is how he composed 10 verses each day over a period of time. No, over period of 100 days, he became all right with the total of 1,000 verses, which is called the Narayaniya, right? Some of you may know. So this is a case of how the causal body that is the one where the repair takes place. So in other words, we say, who is the greatest physician you can have? It is God. Right? If you can connect with that, you can heal anything. So with that as a kind of an introduction to give you a perspective, I'll go quickly through the presentation. Any questions before I begin the presentation and show you the modalities a little more? No? Okay. The mic right here, so it becomes easier to go through. So when we talk about measured yoga therapy, the key objective of it is to have an integrative understanding of all the approaches of medicine and healing systems. And what we literally I'm proposing over here is we can have a unified system of medicine that understands every system of medicine in the world as one integrated model. And in the end, I will share with you what my view of how we should use medicine for health as we go along. But the best thing is not to ruin your health by having a life that keeps you integrated with your body, mind and spirit, or what we say, the Sthula Sharira, Karma Sharira, Sukshma Sharira and Karma Sharira being aligned. So to explain this, I'm going to speak about the yoga philosophy. And by the way, the yoga philosophy of existence is the same yoga philosophy as the Christian philosophy of existence, is the same philosophy of the Islamic concept of existence. It is the same philosophical concept as the Jewish concept of existence. In every theistic religion, the concept is one and the same. Only people use different words to describe, and all of that, there is no difference whatsoever. So I'll explain that, the yoga philosophy of existence, and within that, I will explain the place of different systems of medicine. I can go through historical research, but that's not something you will have as much interest in, so I may skip that. And then I will share with you the methodology of non-invasive measured yoga therapy, and how by using yoga techniques you can do something that is holistic. The holistic concept is that it integrates your physical body with the vibration and with the causal body, so that makes it holistic. And what happens is it is non-invasive when you don't have to put anything into your mouth or inject yourself or do anything, but simply by doing practices like your own meditation or the way you live your life, eating organic food and all of that, you keep harmony within your body. So that is this thing, and I can go through many cases, but I have some cases here, but I've already explained enough for you. I've divided the presentation to 6 segments. So the first view of the yoga philosophy of existence is once everything begins with God. In the Yoga Sutras, God goes by the name Ishvara or Sattva Purusha or Prabhu. These are the names that are used. And out of that comes the spiritual world. And the spiritual world, from a yoga perspective, it is called Prakriti, is the beginning of that. Prakriti initially, according to the Sankhya Sutras, makes a cosmic processor. And the cosmic processor, according to the Sankhya Sutra, is called Vasudeva. And then the intent of Prakriti, coming from the intent of Ishvara, called Mahat, as it's said in the Sankhya philosophy, it processes through the cosmic processor and creates many, many small processors. Each is assigned a particular part of the program segment. So in other words, the entire cosmos works like a distributed computing system, if those of you are on the computer side of this thing. And within that, you get sentient entities and insentient ones, like all the material things, chair, tables, earth, sand, and all of that. And you get also live beings, live things, whether they are trees or each one of us, all of them that come in. So with respect to all of them, out of that comes the subtle vibrations from the spiritual world.
when we connect into the spiritual world, we connect through what we call as scalar waves, whereas once it comes into the subtle vibration, it comes into the electromagnetic spectrum. And that comes into the physical body, and that's what makes you who you are. So all of this is in the physical world. And now, each one of us who are sentient beings, we all have a direct connection to God as well. So on one side we are connected into the spiritual world, the other side we are also connected into God, which is the source of wisdom. And that is what is called Atma Vidya in yoga. Right? And so I'll skip this a little bit. I don't need to go into the zone of mind. It will get into more discussions. But then you can understand where is the gross body, the Sthula Sharira, that is the zone of the allopathic medicine. Whereas the Sukshma Sharira, or the vibrations, are in the zone of the mind, as well as the vibrations coming from the Chitta, from the individual Chitta that is processing all the programs. And that is the zone of traditional medicine systems. And this is the machine that I showed you, the camera where you put your finger in, and today we can measure it like that. In the case of Karma Sharira, it is the zone of Tantra Yoga. And I gave you so many examples of it, whether it is Karma Dhanam or whether it is blessings or so many other ways. And of course, today we have the ability with the system that we have to from a computer command, you can request a blessing from God and pop, it comes down. And we have tested this. This seems like magic to many of you people, but actually in pain conditions, it works immediately. So if any of you have any pain and we work with that, once we give the healing through the system, immediately the pain goes away. And it doesn't matter whether you're here or you're 10,000 miles away, we can connect simply I can connect thinking of you, but for most people, if you have a hair or some DNA element, that's all that is needed in order to go and connect into you. So you can understand the three zones in which we are working. Any healing works with communication. So the underlying principle, this is an underlying principle in all systems. And the Ayurvedic people know this very clearly, because in Ayurveda they will say the communications are of 5 types. And those 5 types of communications are the 5 vatas. Whereas Pitta and Kapha cannot go and correct themselves. The communication that changes everything is the 5 vayus, right? So the thing is basically, in the allopathic system, the communication is happening with nerve response and biochemical reactions. Whereas the general concept of communication is, you have channels of communication, like nerves in the allopathic system, and maybe the blood and the entire hormone and all the elements that are going on. And then the second element is the content or intent of communication, efficiency or coherence in communication, and energy for communication. This is the general concept how any healing works within any system. So now let's look at the different systems over here. The intervention in the allopathic world is either biochemical or surgical, whereas in the traditional medicine world, you also get elements related to detoxification, alignment of the person, and lifestyle elements like, making sure you eat the right kind of food at the right time in the right quantity. So in other words, what we say is, how to eat well is, you eat well with your full awareness within. So on a daily basis, if you are doing some form of meditation, you develop an awareness, you look at something, if you like it, you should eat it. If you don't like it, you shouldn't eat it. If you are hungry, you should eat. If you are not hungry, you should not eat. So you listen to your inner self. And so those are the lifestyle elements that come from a traditional medicine perspective. Then when we are talking about the zone of Tantra, we are talking of connecting into the cosmic entity and with the idea of removing any conflicts with our cosmic purpose. Each one with our program being, we are born to fulfill our cosmic purpose. And of course, our understanding, our hypothesis is that any lower communication element cannot, any communication element will impact the other two the areas. However, the lower element may or may not be consistent with the higher elements, but the higher elements can always make the lower elements consistent with it, right? So our hypothesis is this is the source of side effects that typically happens in modern medicine, whereas on the other hand, it is less so, but also in herbology, with herbal medicines, you could get side effects, okay? But it's much, much less. Whereas on the other hand, if you go into the zone of the healing with connecting into the cosmic intelligence, there can be no side effects whatsoever. So if you align your body, mind, spirit, and respect, have an attitude of working with life without thinking you're the doer. You're just let everything go through. Sometimes my good Nambudri friend, if you ask him, shall we do this or do that, he'll simply say, I could. So the thing is basically life should go like that, I could, right? So in other words, whatever flows, let it flow. Let's not fight life. Let's not say, I want this, I want that. Whatever comes, everything is fine. Okay. So the thing is now, let's look at the yogic approach. How many of you here are familiar with the yogic tradition? Some of you. How many of you have heard Ashtanga Yoga? Okay, some of you. So I'm going to skip this a little bit, but those of you who come from a yoga background can relate how asana pranayama works in the sthula sharira, whereas pranayama pratyahara dharana works in the sukshma sharira, and the dharana dhyana samadhi works in the karma sharira, and of course the yama and niyama works in all of them, and you can correlate with the four principles or four elements of communication that I mentioned. Now in traditional medicine systems, there is a concept of left and right. Now, I'm not so sure how our Ayurvedic doctors do here, but sometimes what happens is when people work with a rule-based kind of system, after a while they fail to understand what was the intent behind the rules. So the key element is the left side is considered your inner dimension, and the right side is considered the external elements that you deal with. Okay? And this in yoga is called the Ida Nadi and the Pingala Nadi. Okay? And so if you want to correlate with today's modern understanding, we say your genes are what are your inner elements, but your genes don't make you. Your genes plus the epigenetics, what hits you moment by moment basis, both of them mixing together create what is called the gene expression. How many of you have heard of that? Yes. So the gene expression is what makes you. So it's not your genes. So if any doctor says hereditarily you have this problem, all your forefathers had this problem, so you have this problem, that's not a complete and good answer. It is if your lifestyle goes in a wrong way where the stresses hit you, you will get the hereditary this thing. But if you maintain a stress-free and a harmonic life, the hereditary, you don't need to have that hereditary problem, right? So it is the gene expression that matters and not the genes. And so the left side is your inner dimension, right side is how we transact with the world, all the external elements. And many of you can relate. Right from young age, you're told you give and take with the right hand, not with the left, right? Because that is the right side is how you transact with the world. So this is extremely important because when people have led a bad lifestyle and when things have gone wrong and you have chronic illnesses, what we want to see is we want to see the left side nadis to have a change. And a change for the better, in which case we know that the healing will occur. If the left side does not change and only the right side change, we know it is temporary solution. You know, like allopathic medicine, they want you to have the medicine lifelong for the condition, which means it's only managing the symptom, not curing it, right? So the left and right side are very important concept from a traditional medicine perspective. So I'm going to skip the entire research section. If any of you have questions, you can always ask me how various research have happened over the last 100 years that evolved all of these systems, and how we have worked with measuring the nadis and things like that. I'm going to skip it. So now this camera that I showed you, where we read like the aura of the 10 fingertips, right from that we get 41 organ systems like this. You can see the various organ systems here, starting from the head, going all the way down to the immune system, peripheral nervous system, and all of that. And the scalar wave technology I've already spoken about, and this is the machine that we use to get that. And all these little fine prints is how many selections you have. I know it is very difficult for you to read over here, but in the top left-hand side, you have the basic organs in the body, parts of the body. As you go along, it is becoming smaller and smaller. If you come to the last column, coming down to the right side, bottom, the last two readings are osteoblast and osteoclast. How many of you know what is osteoblast and osteoclast? Nobody? Okay. The osteoblast, you see, our bones that we have, for adult people, the bones are constantly leaching out and new bones are forming. The leaching out process is called osteoblast, and the new bone that is created, the elements that come is called osteoblast. When the osteoclasts are more actively working than the osteoblasts, then people get osteopenia and osteoporosis, right? So that means it's going down to a much finer level. And as we continue into the next screen, you can see it is going into the chromosome level and the DNA level, and on the left-hand side, it is going into all the small elements within the cells, all right? So this is the way in which it is, the mitochondria, the mitochondrial membrane, all of it can look at. So this is the degree to which we can go into. Now, how does the system of measured yoga therapy work? It's a system of you being able to predict from one sitting or one stimulation, what is that particular stimulation, what effect it will have on you. Immediately you can measure. I already told you how we measure pre and post, right? So the application can be used as preventive application, like for stress reduction. It can be also used to reverse chronic conditions. I've already published this research, and this research is available. Any of you know what is the PubMed? You know PubMed. Okay. So it is already indexed in the PubMed. This is called the National Library of Medicine, which is in the United States and the National Institutes of Health. And those people who are in the field of medicine, they know this is where they will find all the research articles that are peer-reviewed articles, so it's already published. So how does measured yoga therapy work? The first step that you do is we take your medical history. By the way, those of you who like to work with these kind of modalities, we need to be very careful. In the sense, what happens is, if you are not a licensed physician, you have to be always careful to make sure that you're not diagnosing your patient, but you let a doctor diagnose the patient and then they can come to you, right? Because what happens is, from a licensed perspective, a person who is not licensed is not allowed to diagnose, right? So the thing is, we ask for medical history, and we tell them, what did your doctor tell you? And we also go back to all previous conditions. And why is the previous conditions important? Because, as you know from an Ayurvedic perspective, the first ill health that they have, that indicates the first imbalance that came in that person. Unless you take care of the first imbalance, even though it may have cascaded into other conditions, you can never solve the problem. You have to always hit at the first one, right? So the thing is, you see, that is the reason the medical history is very, very important. We look at their lifestyle habits. In the lifestyle habits, we look at two dimensions. We look at the sweat that they have, the sweat particularly in the palms. We look at the stool and we look at the sleep, quality of their sleep. These are the 3 S's we look at to understand what is going on in their lifestyle. The next thing we look at is how do they live their life, when do they wake up, what kind of diet they have, what kind of activities they have. All of this we take as input. And then we also take we have trained people to take the Ayurvedic pulse reading, so they take the reading. And very often we don't take the reading also, but the reading we do with this gives us exactly which of the organ systems that are done. I'm going to ask a very interesting question to our Ayurvedic people over here. Have you ever come across somebody whose prakriti is completely vata?
No.
The prakriti is completely vata. Vata prakriti kandittundo. Okay. Combination is a different matter. But have you ever seen somebody who is completely vata? In the prakriti, not vikriti. Vikriti you will see a lot of people with vata. But prakriti you have not. Right? It is a very rare condition. And what happens is, if somebody has vata in their person, this person was diabetic, and whatever we were doing, nothing was working. We'll tell him how much is his blood sugar level. The moment he said, yes, I will take you and we will get for you, his alarm started going. The blood sugar rose very high. And thereafter what I told him was, don't ever think of food anymore. Whatever your wife gives you, eat it, don't ask questions. After that there was no problem. That is the unique vata nature, but very rare you will see a vata prakriti. And they are extraordinary people. Anyway, so when we take the pre and post reading like this, right? We take the pre-reading and we are able to diagnose from here which organ system actually diagnosed. Let me take that word out. We are able to assess what is the only the word assess. We leave the diagnosis to the doctor, right? We are able to assess which underlying communication has an imbalance, and accordingly we will recommend a pranayama practice or a mantra or visualization, mental affirmation, meditation technique. And some cases we will, people who come to us for this, these are not people who come in a condition who are ready to go on a yoga mat and do asanam and all of that. So they can sit in a chair and we do gentle movements, and that is good enough. Chair-based stretching and all of that. And after each practice we will take the reading. And typically, because of our experience, in maybe 4 or 5 cases, 4 out of 10 cases, we'll figure out within the 1 or 2 testing, this is what will work for you. And in some people we need longer testing. And so this is, once we know what is working in our measurement, and what do we look for, I've already told you. Left side must heal. Left side must improve, right? Left hand reading. And if the left hand reading is substantially improving, we know it is going to heal the person. Right hand, it will give temporary relief. So that's how we decide what is good and we recommend. And of course, like any other medicine system, there is no 100% guarantee that will be successful. And why is there no 100% guarantee that will be successful? Because every time when we are taking measurement, if the person has medications in their system, our readings are not correct. If the mind is affected, like somebody whose mind is thinking of something, or they got a phone call that upset the person or made the person very happy, then you are getting wrong readings. You see, one time in a gathering like this, I had my instrument ready over there, and one person was very curious. So he came and took the reading, and I saw his pancreas communication was very low. So I said, "Are you diabetic?" I asked him. He was shocked. He looked at me. "How do you know?" So I said, the machine is showing this thing. So he said, "This machine can detect whether I'm diabetic or not." So he had come for a conference kind of setting. So I said, this is what it is. So what happened is, he lives about some 500, 600 kilometers away from me. And in US it takes only about 7 hours or so to drive and come. So what he did was, next weekend, he took his whole family and he brought them to have the reading. So while he was coming, he had given donation to something and he had bought a raffle ticket. And he got a phone call on his mobile phone. He had won a car, the first prize, which was a BMW car. So he has won the car. So he got that news while he was driving. He was very happy. So he came and he takes the reading. There is no pancreatic deficiency. He didn't take any medication. He forgot all his medication, left it at home. So the state of the mind can change all the nadi readings. Right? So the thing is, you see, this is why we can never be sure what we are reading is 100% correct. We always look for correlation with the allopathic diagnosis. So that way we can be reasonably sure that we are working in the right zone. So these are factors that will be there. So we cannot have 100% guarantee. Typically, 5 out of 10 people in the first sitting itself will be able to take care of them. Another 4 out of the 10, we may need to do a follow-up and work through a process of understanding where things are working or not. And usually 1 out of 10 cases, we may not be able to find the cause. I have cases over here. I'll quickly go through over here and focus more on the screen over here. I'll give you this, you can see the screen over here where we have looked at different organ systems that have come from this reading. This is a case of a 31-year-old lady, and this lady has what is called preventricular contraction. It is a form of a bad rhythm of the heart. It is in the general category of what is called arrhythmia, right? Arrhythmia means bad rhythm of the heart. It's considered, if I use medical terms, I'll miss most of you. But any case, it's the nerve communication that stimulates and how they interact is called electrophysiology of the heart. So the thing is, basically, it is a wrong, the electrophysiology of the heart has gone wrong. So what happens is, in modern medical system, if it becomes, first thing they will do is, they will look to reduce the heart rate with what is called a beta blocker. And if that doesn't work and if it's still bad, they will use something called ablation. Ablation is, they take probes in and they burn off nerve cells to change the communication. It's an invasive process and sometimes they can do damage too. But they never think, they're trying to work at the physical level, they never think what is happening at the higher level, right? Now, what happens is, in some people who are in the Ayurvedic field have said that the sound "th" is something that is that impacts the heart. So this was actually found in a very interesting way. Going back maybe like about 10 years back, in Maharashtra, in the Pune area, there was a poor man who had come to a doctor, and he had diagnosed him with another arrhythmia condition. Arrhythmia condition are of different types: tachycardia, this bradycardia, as well as the worst one is called atrial fibrillation. So short form they call it as AFib. So this person was suffering from atrial fibrillation, and the atrial fibrillation, it means the heart, different chambers of the heart are not coordinated. So they go in a bad way. So there is, it results in not enough adequate blood flow, and doctors are always worried it could lead to a cardiac arrest at some point in time. So having atrial fibrillation for too long is not a good idea, right? So the thing is, so he was recommended for doing the ablation, but he didn't have money. So he said he's going to go to Pandharpur. So in Maharashtra there is the famous temple, the Pandharpur temple, and when they go, what they do is they carry on their shoulders a balancing stick with on the two ends, like they go to Shabarimala, right? They put in their various offerings and all of that, and they go chanting Vittala, 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 they go chanting, right? So they walk and go. So they walk for like 200, 100, 200 kilometers or whatever. They walk and they go for like a week or so walking and they come back. So after a month he comes back and the doctor looks at him, all the atrial fibrillation is gone. So what happened is we tested this. So this was in 2019 when we tested it. For this lady, when she came to me, we can see over here where you see the yellow arrow pointing, all her heart monitors are below power in the communication. The energy in the communication is too low. And we can see in the lower side that big arrow that is pointing, the peripheral nervous system is also indicating as hyperactive. Peripheral nervous system is hyperactive, the heart elements are underactive. Okay? And there are few other elements also, collateral elements we see, but not that important. And that's where the small yellow arrows are there. So after doing this Vittala for when she came, she with preventricular contraction, there is not enough blood flow going around the body. So she would have like brain fog, in the sense she cannot think clearly, she's not feeling energetic, so that kind of feeling. After doing Vittala for 7 minutes, she said, my brain fog is gone, I'm feeling very alert, very energetic. And so we told her, please continue doing this. And immediately after this, you can see her peripheral nervous system improved on the left side 27%, right side 22%. The cerebral zone vessels, which is the indicator of blood flow into the brain, right, improved by 49% on the left side. And you can see even anytime the blood flow is better, you will also have impact on the lungs. The lungs improved 20% on the left, 29% on the right. So for her, it worked. So after 2 months, I followed up with her and she sends me this email. Hi Dr. Narayanan, I have been doing yoga and practicing the chantings and this has been really helping. I'm feeling better and getting fewer arrhythmias. Occasionally when I'm stressed, I still get them, but overall things are much better, so thank you very much. After 2 months, she's practicing and it works for her. By the way, her husband is a cardiologist, okay? And as a cardiologist, they are all completely, their mind is blown away. How can something like Vittala is doing this magic kind of thing, right? And here is this case of this 82-year-old person. I told you about this person who had this quadruple bypass and all of this. His wife is also a doctor. He's an engineer. So when he came to me, he did not come for his heart problem. He never even told me about his angina or anything when he came. He had so many different problems. He was on 14 medications. He came to me because he was getting this belching like hiccups that would never stop. And you can relate to it. It is the phrenic nerve is uncontrolled, is constantly pulling up the diaphragm, like hiccup, right? So he was having this condition. So they gave him a muscle relaxant. In the popular, these doctors give something called baclofen. So he had so many medications in the system, they also gave him charcoal in order to, neutralize all of those things. And in addition to 12 other medications he was taking for various conditions, heart, diabetes and all of those things. So this man, when he came to us, the problem he had was, while during the daytime the muscle relaxant would work, at night when he's trying to sleep, each time the hiccups are going and he's unable to sleep. He cannot get a decent night's sleep. So there are no answers, so finally he came to me. So when he came to me, again we recognized the peripheral nervous system as a problem. So we told him to do Ujjayi pranayama, but knowing that his first problem that happened was the heart problem, we also needed to do something for the heart. And actually there is a mantra called the In mantra. The In mantra takes care of the heart. So that's exactly what we did. And after we did it, we can see the weaknesses in the first reading, and immediately after, when we took the reading, actually this was a color-coded that thing, you can see the red or the orange boxes over there showing the below par underactive reading, and then immediately after doing 10 minutes of practice, 5 minutes of Ujjayi Pranayama and 5 minutes of in mantra meditation, everything became all right. And after 7 weeks he reported he doesn't need the baclofen anymore, and his angina, as you said, from 4 minutes it would come only 8 minutes or so. Then after another few months he reported another week, all his blood pressure medication was removed. His wife is a doctor, blood pressure was going down too much, it had become normal, blood pressure medication gone, and then 4 months later his angina pain was gone forever. So you can imagine how it is, you can, with these kind of things. By the way, right now he is 87 years old, okay? And he is more energetic than he has been in the previous 10 years, okay? And the person does a lot of charitable work, and as I said, his doctor, what he told him. So this is the kind of thing. Now hypertension is a very common problem, but what happens is the hypertension elements that impact a person, they vary a lot. And so typically, those of you who know, when people get the baroreceptors that you have in the carotid area, right? And of course you have the baroreceptors in the aortic arch as well, but the baroreceptors are like thermostat. Now for the non-medical audience, I need to say this in a different way. You see, typically when you are relaxed like this, actually, I don't know how relaxed you are, focused on the conversation, what I'm telling you. But if you're perfectly relaxed doing nothing, 20% of your blood at any time is going to your brain. Your brain is the biggest single consumer of blood in your system. Why? Because every cell in the body, just like the brain cell, consume oxygen and glucose to produce energy, what is called cellular respiration, right? And the brain needs it, and it has the highest priority because the brain is the controller of all the vitality in every system in the body. And through the nerve signals, it is sensing how much is needed in each part of the body, and in order to do its control function, it basically takes the first priority is the blood for itself, and then using that energy, it is sensing every other part of the body and deciding which one will have the others. And the second priority, the brain realizes the brain will not get enough blood if the heart is not performing well. So the second priority is the heart, and after that all the other elements of the body, right? So if the brain is not, there is a receptor in the neck area that is sensing how much blood is going to the brain. That is what is called the baroreceptors, okay? It is like a thermostat kind of this thing. So when there is not enough blood going to the brain, then the brain will send the signal, increase the blood pressure so that I get more blood upcoming. And it's not only the brain, the same signal can come from the kidney also. Why from the kidney? The liver and the kidney have a job of removing toxins from the body. Anytime you get stressed, the stress hormones are toxins to the body. So for them to be actively cleared out, the kidney kidney is the one filtering out all of this. So kidney is saying increase the blood pressure so that I can filter faster. And of course if it does it too long, filter that way, it functions like a filter paper. And so what happens is the nephrons in the kidney will get damaged. That is why when people have high blood pressure, they want to take care of the kidney also, and also prevent it from going, if it becomes if a clot or something goes into the brain, you will get a stroke, right? So that is the reason they want to bring down the blood pressure. So there are various, that is one element. The stress is the other element, the kidney pathway. The third element that happens is the arteries can become stiff. And so there are different mechanisms by way in which modern medicine manages high blood pressure. So we are able to capture that information based upon the reading of the fingers. We had a very unusual case, and the unusual case was that we have a yoga teacher who is very constant, everything is good, but this person's blood pressure had increased a lot. And what had happened was, when we looked at all of the things, we couldn't find anything in the system that basically told us what was going on for that person, right? Oh, actually I have two cases over here. Okay. So what happened was, then we used the machine I showed you where we can connect into the cosmic intelligence, right? So that machine is called Metatron. So we used the Metatron to connect it, and we could see in her brain, you see the black spots over there, that brain, in the black spots, it is indicating for us that it is, the source of it is coming from the brain. Okay? Then in which case I had to go through a back and forth process with her. What is happening? Do you have any worries in your system? And she had a worry about her, one of her children, who, I won't even mention what it is, but the person had an orientation which she could not, reconciliate with her own religious beliefs. And that conflict that was there in the mind was creating that, and it was from the brain that was coming out. When such conflicts come, no other practice that we normally do for blood pressure can help, right? So what we had to do is, we want to cleanse the pathways with the carnation. For that, we do what is called chakra vibration, chakra cleansing. And so we did that. After one session of doing that, immediately the blood pressure fell by 30 points in the systolic blood pressure, right? 30 points falling down systolic blood pressure is immense, simply by doing some chakra vibration. So, when we have difficulty, when we cannot understand why something is happening, we can go away into, the only problem is when we go into several hundred, like you can potentially look at 900 elements, but we typically when we scan to look at, we look at 450 elements in that Metatron. But to look through 450 elements, it is like looking for a needle in a haystack. There's too much to look at. So it is not very convenient, but then when you don't know what is happening, that's when we look at this thing. And so this is an example of how we did it. There is another example, and this is going to be very, very interesting. We had two cases. One is actually me, and the other is one of the doctors who works with me is an oncologist, cancer specialist. And this person and me, we have a common problem. And the common problem is, every time we read in this machine, the sinuses always shows as weak. At the same time, we see some mild weakness in the heart muscle, but no weakness in the coronary arteries. The coronary arteries are all very good. So there is no indication of the typical kind of heart issues, that coronary artery blockages or so. So what happens is, both of us, he was getting like tiredness when he was walking up the stair. And his daughter is also a doctor, so she wanted everything examined over there. And for me too, I get this pain once in a while. And anytime I get it, all we do is, both of us, we do Brahmari. Brahmari is a yoga practice of humming, some of you may know. And the moment we do it, everything clears off. And if everything is clears off by that, the sound vibration, we wanted to understand why is it the pain is coming and what is happening over there. So you can see over here, these are the pictures from the Metatron reading. In the Metatron reading, when we look over there, you can see on the number 1 is the front side of the heart, the number 2 is the back side of the heart, and there in both of them you can see the coronary arteries, the blood vessels that are there in the wall of the heart, which is the muscle. And the blood vessels are the one which are called the coronary arteries, and you don't see any black over there. And black and brown are not very good. All the others are good communication. Then you see the number 3 is the electrical signals that first make what is called the electrophysiology of the heart. The top 2 chambers contract first, and in reaction the bottom chambers contract. So that is the electrical signal pathways in number 3. Number 4 is the valves in the heart. And the valves are there are 4 valves we talk about. is the four valves are shown over here. That is, between the upper chamber and the lower chamber, on the two sides you have the two valves. Then when they pump the blood out, then the valves that send the blood out, those are the other valves, the other two valves. So those are also looking quite all right. And then the number 5 is the vertical cross section. Number 6 is the horizontal cross section. And the horizontal cross section, you can see over there blacks and browns, right? So what is happening is, it is not the coronary arteries. It is the blood perfusion in the capillaries. So many of you probably don't recognize that the blood flow through the major arterial pathway takes you to all parts of the body, but they don't go to every cell. What goes into every cell is the capillaries, right? So the capillaries had the problem, and by doing a sound vibration, the capillaries open up, right? So this was something very interesting which we had seen. So the conclusion observation is that what we have is a whole structure whereby we can understand total human health, and we can understand the place of different medical systems. And the final recommendation for all of you is, if you can lead the right lifestyle where you are in sync with your cosmic purpose, what we call being in sync with your swadharma, your purpose of life, being in sync with that and taking things as they come without reactivity, being in harmony with yourself, eating the right kind of food, organic things that don't cause reaction within your system, then in which case that can be the best medicine. But on the other hand, if you need to take medicine, understand, if you have had an accident where bones are broken or something has, the blood is bleeding or something has happened, for immediate, needs, this thing to plug you from losing your life when you're in that condition, modern medicine, allopathic medicine is very good. But for chronic conditions, allopathic medication can have significant potential for side effects, negative side effects. And whereas traditional medicine systems can find solutions that can be more in harmony with your with your subtle and causal body. So those are all the potential, so you can understand how different systems work. So in effect, what I'm talking about is a system of unified system of medicine. And the measured yoga therapy is how you apply it. But the key element of it is, even though we have so much knowledge, to bring it into the mainstream is very difficult. It is very difficult because it all started from the Western world, and the Western world, whatever they do, every other part of the world copies it, right? So what has happened is, the doctors have, the licensed physicians have the legal authority to do whatever. But by good grace in India, Ayurvedic physicians are completely recognized. So because they are recognized, for chronic conditions, Ayurvedic physicians may give you better solutions than you can from a allopathic medicine standpoint. But then, if there are deeper issues, even better than that is, today's Ayurvedic physicians, most of them are into what is called herbology. Herbology means if you go to an Ayurvedic physician, you'll come back with some kashayam or this thing and all of that you'll come back with, right? So what happens is, you'll never come back without a bag of medicines. In the churnam or kashayam, all of these things. So whereas that is not how traditional Ayurveda was. If we go back into traditional Ayurveda, it is said the medical system used to be, all the Ayurvedic doctors were paid by the kingdom. So in other words, they were the health officers of the entire kingdom when the kingdoms were there, when we talk about the ancient kingdoms of India, right? So they did not charge any fees when they consulted with the patient. Whereas 95% of the time they will say, they'll ask them, what time do you wake up, what do you do? They will tell them, change your lifestyle, wake up such and such, do these activities, eat this kind of food. So these are the lifestyle recommendations they would give. 95% of the time, no medication is given whatsoever. Only in 5% of the time they will give herbal medication, and whatever they give as the herbal medication, they will take the fees for that. That's how it works. But because Ayurvedic system was always taught as a spiritual system, I don't know whether still in Kerala, in fact it used to be the case, Ayurvedic curriculum will never begin unless you first go through the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Is that the process still? No. The thing is, you see, that used to be the case. Without understanding yoga, you cannot learn Ayurveda. That used to be the system. And today's system, what has happened is, when the British and all these invaders came into India, and the basic traditional medicine system was destroyed, or then in which case the allopathic medicine, the English medicine was being promoted. At that time, coming from the way in which it has been taught to Ayurvedic doctors that this is a spiritual discipline, and all through fees were never transacted for consulting, right? So everything became that unless you give them medication and you make your margin over there as your fee, you will not be able to have a living wage, right? So essentially, this is how the modern Ayurvedic system became corrupted. See, today we talk of yoga therapy. There was nothing called yoga therapy in ancient times. It was an integral part of Ayurveda. So because Ayurveda has gone completely into herbology, now we are reviving the concept of yoga therapy as really a lifestyle element. And I hope that all of you here, and with such people as Azeezia, all of you can take this message, bring it to people, get people to learn this and to share this with more people so that we can help all of humanity. So with that, I will end over here. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you for watching. Signing off, Dr. Azeez.